How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another video. This one is a very special one because we will be interviewing the legendary Tim Haines about his upcoming paleo series known as Surviving Earth. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with Tim Haines. Of course, he was instrumental in the production of Walking with Dinosaurs, Walking with Beasts, and Walking with Monsters. He's, of course, a huge name in this space. It was a huge pleasure to get the chance to talk with him, and we have some pretty cool things to discuss. So yeah, Tim, how are you doing today?
All right, thank you very much.
Great.
Yourself?
I am doing great. I'm just hanging out, basically. So, Surviving Earth, brand new docuseries coming up. It's an 8-part documentary series that seems to be absolutely massive, covering a lot of time and completely centered around extinctions, basically. Were there any huge challenges that were present while you guys were working on this docuseries?
Well, I think the first one was choose which extinction events because there's quite a choice, as you probably know. No, I think that I've worked in this area before. It was lovely to come back to it because the technology has improved in a lot of areas, allowing you to do so much more. But the stories we wanted to tell were a little bit more complex than, say, back in Walking with Dinosaur days. This wasn't just a show about dinos and extinct creatures. It's actually a show about the relationship between Earth and extinct life. And as such, the message it tells you is the past can tell you something about the present and the future as well. So we chose a series of extinction events that had echoes in what's happening at the moment. And that was how we chose the 8. And I've had a lot of people sort of suggest that we missed out the Jurassic extinction event. Well, it was actually very much like the Permian in many ways. A lot of volcanic activity and some animals died. So they all vary. They all have something quite different to say about how the world and life works.
I think that's a fantastic route to take, especially in our day and age where we're seeing a lot of huge, climate changes, environmental changes that is affecting us. So that's going to be a huge part of the docuseries, is making sure it links up to the modern day, correct?
It's actually because we want to entertain as well. It's something I learned with Walking with Dinosaurs. We take you to the past and you stay there and you hear the story through. So there's only a coda at the end, like an epitaph at the end about modern day. And it allows you to look back and go, oh, I see, that's why the story was relevant. I mean, although you and I might love dinosaurs, some people kind of go, what's that got to do with me? And I think the reason for putting that bit in the end is to say it has a lot to do with you because that's how life dealt with it last time. Here's now. So, I think it was the choice of those things, I think, allow us to reflect on today's situation.
Fantastic. So yeah, like I mentioned, this is an absolutely huge docuseries, one where you're taking a look at the Paleozoic, the Mesozoic, and the Cenozoic. Is there any particular creatures, relatively unknown creatures that you just thought, I absolutely have to include that in this?
Well, I'm sure you'd know them all. It's funny, you talk to people and they might know nothing. They might know your T-Rex, your Stegosaurus and stuff like that. But some people, they know about Ischigualastia or they know about cynodonts. And I have to say, mammal-like reptiles are the toughest one to describe to people who don't know what mammal-like reptiles are. Because you go, well, it's a mammal ancestor, but no, it's a reptile. And then the scientists say, oh, you can't say that. You can't say this. So you end up with a whole paragraph trying to decide what the animal is. But I think that we go right back to the Ordovician, and I don't think most people would know about Sacoban baspis, for instance, even though it's a meme in Japan. They sell little fluffy toys of that fish. And yeah, orthocones, giants, sea scorpions, it's that world. But we get up to modern and you've got giant short-faced bears and stag moose, stuff like that. I think that people are much more familiar with it.
On top of that, I also noticed that the episodes will be releasing not non-chronological, as in there, you know, it can be, is there any particular reason why that was done, or was it just spur of the moment thing?
Um, Having made programs for American channels before, I know it's never a given that chronology will be the reason they order the shows.
Hmm.
I think fundamentally a TV company puts it out strongest shows first and so on and so forth. Um, so I made them as all standalone and so gave NBC the choice what order to run them in. And I think every single one just tells a story, and you don't necessarily, they're not, since they're not connected, you don't have to know all about the Ordovician to move forward to the Carboniferous, to move forward to the Permian. Um, and so you watch each one. And we do a lot of reminding of people how long ago this was and what the world was like, etc. So I don't think anyone will feel lost, but take each show as it comes. That question I have had a lot. I'm sorry, I hold my hands up. It wasn't my choice, but I think it makes a great series, the order it's in.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's all just self-contained. Like you're basically just going into a singular story with no additional context needed. So that certainly is a
It's
great
not
route to take.
about evolution as such. So if you were doing evolution, you'd want to know that this animal grew up into that animal and so on and so forth. But that's not really what it's about.
Hmm.
It's about that moment in time.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So, were there any like huge particular highlights for you personally working on this docu-series? Like something that just stands out in your mind? Like, yeah, I loved that. That was one of my favorite things.
I don't know, you get a lot of satisfaction from great scenes when they work really well. The animation is beautiful. I really enjoyed making the Carboniferous Forest. We used a bit of a set and we used Unreal Engine. And, in the past, we've always shot like Florida Everglades. This looks a bit like it doesn't. It doesn't look anything like the Carboniferous, really. So it's great to try and recreate it as well as we could. I think that the you I love we chose to go back to a few places I knew about already. We were looking for locations to film in, and New Caledonia is just such a wonderful location with its column pines and everything.
Hmm.
But generally, I think I enjoyed the whole thing. I loved all the shows. There are just little highlights throughout when things went particularly well.
Beautiful. One thing that I know that my audience in particular is very excited about is the use of practical effects in this as well. Very similar to the original Walking With uh, trilogy, essentially. How much of a play, or how much do practical effects show up in this, and like how reliant were you guys on something like that?
A lot less than we used to be because you literally couldn't, when I started, you couldn't get close to the animal's face because the scales just fell apart.
You could just tell.
Now, yeah, you could tell it was a real disappointment
Yeah.
getting very close. But now they're very, very good. I think we still used animatronics for certain purposes. So dead stuff.
Hmm.
If you want to interact with a dead body, you push it about and everything. And in particular, the largest one we had was a nodosaur floating in the water. A company called Magastone, very, very good at that. And skeletons, bodies, stuff like that. But you can't make an animatronic move with the fluidity that CGI gives you. So all our moving creatures were CGI in the end. We tried to have a little turtle creature, Siamodus, hatching out of the sand, and we made it, and it was going to push its way out of the sand. It just looked didn't make it. In the end, the CGI creature sat over the top of him. That's the problem, People like these things, but they have very high standards these days.
Right. Yeah. Well, from what I've seen in the trailers, everything just looks absolutely phenomenal. The CGI, the animatronic, or well, the practical effects, it looks great.
Yeah.
Um, on that note, this is of course a huge collaborative effort. There's a paleo artists involved. There's of course consultants, and of course all of the TV people. What's something like that like? Is it absolute chaos, or like what are some insights about the behind the scenes of making a project like
Well,
this?
I hope you'd expect me to say no. It was wonderfully organised all the time, no chaos at all. The scientists, it's a difficult area because we kind of research, we get very quickly pushed to the edge of what the scientists can say, and then there's nearly always a little bit of a leap where you go, well, can we do that? And they go, yeah. So that's often quite difficult because the scientists who gave us their time and advise us can only advise us so far because you have to fill out the rest of the story. But they're all much, much more familiar with this than they used to be, and I think the audience is as well, and they know that we can tell how a T-Rex walks, but how fast it walked or how it behaved. A lot of this stuff is very, very difficult. Um, we try to hammock with every little bit of evidence we have. So quite often you'll notice stories taking little side turns just to take in a fossil bit of evidence or what have you.
Yeah.
The most complicated bit, because the CGI guys, it's very controlled. It's not like a normal production. That tends to work quite well. Or if it's going wrong, they don't tell me. I just swan in afterwards. Going on shoots, much more complicated. When you try to do, the blast wave from the asteroid impact, reaching some trees, and there's only like 5 of you with ropes, it can be quite difficult. That's where you really want CGI help.
Hmm.
And also weather is never your friend. You turn up at some plane in Argentina and it has been tipping for months and you're wading through the water and that's not in the storyboard. So yeah, that sort of stuff is quite chaotic. But everyone came back with good stuff. I have had in the past, stuff rained out. We shot on the island in New Caledonia, and it was meant to be drought conditions, and there were just puddles everywhere. But it looked beautiful, so we changed the story slightly.
That's the perfect thing to do. If it looks nice, then yeah, we gotta utilize that. Um, and also, I think that a lot of folks would be like a lot of my audience would be upset if I didn't ask you anything about this. Walking with Dinosaurs was a huge part of everyone's childhood, I think, myself included. I absolutely loved that series. And obviously you were a big name that was attached to that. Do you have any fond memories working on Walking with Dinosaurs?
Oh yes, I mean, being honest, it was my making because I was just an ordinary BBC science producer, and the show went global very fast. I They trusted me. Honestly, there was a particular agreement between the BBC and Discovery at the time, which allowed the budget to be pushed up and higher than normal documentaries, which allowed me to go to post-production houses and offer a reasonable budget to try and do this. Nothing compared to what it was costing Jurassic Park and people like that. But I met a wonderful man called Mike Milne, who has since passed away, and he took a little grey model off the internet of a Triceratops and composited into a misty uh, plain by amongst the acacias where rhino were, and he just put them over the top, and it looked instantly perfect, even though what he had to deal with was very crude. And I knew he understood what I was driving at. I knew that the natural history has that privileged view. It doesn't have like a Hollywood view. It has something over a rock or behind a bush or what have you. And we used that as much as we could. And even though a lot of the people, it was first time for everyone threw themselves into it. And as a production, I know some go well and some are difficult, but this, just from beginning to end, I was left to get on with it. And it was wonderful. So, no, I do look back on that with enormous pleasure. Even though when I made a test in Cyprus right at the beginning where I had to put dinosaur feet on by myself and one cameraman. I've looked at that test now and it's awful, but it was enough to raise the money.
Perfect. Did the original Walking with Dinosaurs or just the Walking with series in general, did that have a huge influence on Surviving Earth and the making of that? Like, were you guys trying to emulate anything that folks would remember from those series?
I'm sure people will recognize one or two things, like some of the locations. I don't want to boast about that, quite frankly, but no, I think it kick-started a sort of, as I say, a genre, a subculture, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that I would say that Prehistoric Planet and Dinosaurs, are very much in the similar vein. And you use natural history storytelling, natural history grammar to make people think it's real and to make people think it's a documentary. And that's a really important part of it. So I think that when I came back to do Surviving Earth, I had a slightly different story to tell about the relationship between Earth and life, but I still wanted people to believe it as they watched it. I still wanted people to escape to it and enjoy the story. And then right at the end, you get told, so that's why we told this story. And that's very similar to Walking with Dinosaurs, although that was more of a celebration of all things dinosaurs, really.
Is there any like other key details that you are able to share about Surviving Earth that a lot of folks can be excited about? Like, I don't know, something in that ballpark.
Well, I did. I think it's sort of out there now which ones we chose. In chronological order, Ordovician, end of Ordovician, Carboniferous forest collapse, Permian, end of Permian. Then we got the Cinnamanian Turian event, the OE, well, it's very confusing. Ocean Anoxia event 2, then KT, because you've got to do KT in the end. I mean, one of the most important things about it, which I think you underestimate, is a lot of people refer to the danger with the situation we're in now is it happens so fast geologically. The humans have doubled CO2 in that. And you think, oh, well, maybe it'll be different this time. Maybe life won't be able to cope. Well, they cope with KT. That was 10 years of darkness. That was as quick as you could possibly get. And okay, life was hit hard, but at least it didn't die out. And then we talk about the North and South America, Great Faunal Interchange. I think that can't be seen. I mean, honest, it's not a mass extinction event. It is a kind of, there were extinctions, but I think the reason I mentioned we chose it was because actually, if you look at what humans are doing now, I think possibly one of the most important things we're doing in the future, impact on the future of evolution, is we've mixed it all up. We've mixed up America, Africa, Asia, and of course, life will then react to all that and come up with new forms or what have you. So the faunal interchange was just a very good natural example of that, and we end up with the Great Flood after the last ice age. I know there were one or two, but this is the one that stopped the Gulf Stream, and I think it shows the effect on oceans, but also it's so close to us that it shows big things can still happen quite close to us. It's not, these things aren't all off in the distance. And if we think now about what would happen, certainly I won't be taking a dip off the coast of Wales if the Gulf Stream stops. I can tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like those are going to be some really interesting stories to watch. I am so excited for that. You also mentioned the Cenomanian Turonian boundary event. My favorite dinosaur happens to be Spinosaurus. Were there any yeah were there any challenges that, because obviously it's like one of the most controversial dinosaurs out there, there's a lot of debates going around.
That's the main, but that's the challenge. Whatever you do, you're cursed. We do have it swimming in the water. It was a difficult thing to actually communicate size because there were no other creatures particularly to relate it to, which is slightly annoying. But I think the little hatchlings come across well. And what we do in that story is we have a pliosaur about to give birth and the Spinosaur looking after her hatchlings when a super hurricane hits. And it's really the story of two mothers coping with this over heated ocean.
Oh.
And she actually, it was, oh, damn, a paleo artist. Well, his name escapes me, on tip of my tongue. But I saw one of his pictures and I thought, and he was of a mosasaur up in the trees, having been swept inland. And I thought, yeah, that's a good image.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be a tragic story.
Yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
lot of tragedy.
yeah, I was about to say this story about extinctions. Oh no. But I'm very excited to see that one, especially if it's going to be like a sort of maternal story. I think that's going to be a really, really like great one to follow along. And I saw the baby Spinosauruses too. Cute, very
Yeah.
cute, adorable. um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I have for you today. And you know, of course, unless you have anything that you would love to share. Um,
I can't think of it, but I'll send you an email if, if I
Okay.
think of it.
Well, I can also end off with what's your favorite prehistoric animal? Do you have like any favorites?
Well, I used to say with Walking with Dinosaurs that it was the Lipleurodon because, which wasn't a dinosaur, of course, but
Hmm.
there was a lovely scene which everyone seemed to enjoy where you have a Eustreptospondylus come down to the water and you think the narration is talking about him hunting his prey,
Yeah.
and out comes a great big pliosaur. So I've always loved them. I think the marine, when I started Walking with Dinosaurs, the marine reptiles was such a surprise and pleasure
Hmm.
to learn about them and the four flipper problem and everything that I think I was very fond of them. And I have to say, theropods can sometimes get a bit dull because there's just these two-leg mouths running around. But we did a lot of new ones, I suppose, here and the baby Ischigualastia and stuff like that. They're
Oh
all
yeah.
fun.
So all right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me
My
today,
pleasure.
Tim. It was a real honor to speak with you actually, because of course you
Well, I love your
helped.
channel. I've seen you many times,
Oh, really?
and it's nice. It's nice to hear you reviewing stuff as well. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the Walking With series, and I've been following um Surviving Earth intently ever since I heard about it. And so
Sorry
it's
you had to wait so long.
no issues. It's definitely going to be worth the wait. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for speaking with me. Again, it was a real honor to meet you. Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.